Our country we must have regard. Forget all your differences, let we start to build. And onward to progress we surely will. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come my brother, come my sister, and let us build a nation together.
Come, my brother, come, my sister, and let us build Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique together. I want to welcome you to the hub. Again, another opportunity that you and I have to converse, to talk, to look at what's happening here in Grenada with an eagle's eye. I want to encourage those on Facebook to please share the live. Those on YouTube, do the same thing. Sharing is caring. I want to say to you, in a conversation today, and mind you, I was eavesdropping on a conversation that a number of young people were having today. And just guessing the age they are in my observation, right? So I'm guessing I never had a direct conversation with them, and they didn't know whether or not I was listening in to the conversation. So guessing the age might be about 18, 19, 20, 21, they're about, it's about eight of them. And they were having a conversation, and out of that conversation, they said, if Keith Mitchell thinks that we are stupid, joke he making. So that came out of that conversation that they were having. If Keith Mitchell thinks that we are stupid, joke he making. And I want you to think about that tonight for some time, right? Let it kusume, so to speak. Let it soak in. A group of young people, 8 of them, having a conversation. And out of that conversation, they stated, if Keith Mitchell thinks that we are stupid, joke he making. And what I gather from that statement from young people is that they are abreast. They're following what is happening in the country. And they're also impressed with what is happening in Grenada. They're excited about Grenada's prospect, the whole outlook for our country. And that is a good thing when young people can actually understand good from evil or good from bad. That is where the young people in Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique are at. They are impressed with the performance of this administration, and they don't want that to stop. They want it to continue. If Keith Mitchell think we're stupid, joke he's making. And I am saying the NDC administration is doing an excellent job in the area of agriculture, in the area of health, in the area of education, in the area of human resource development, developing people, right? Infrastructure. They're doing a fantastic job. And young people are recognizing it. Bear in mind, we have a good 65% of our population being young people. Keith Mitchell is going on to 80. He's moving towards 80 years. Peter David is moving on to 70 years. If he's not there yet, there's a great possibility that he might be there or moving closer to 70. Clarice Modeste is moving towards 70, right? Who else on the team? Who else a part of this ring? So the young people understand fully well that this government is forward thinking and they're full of vision. They're visionaries, right? So they're impacted. Young people are impacted directly by the policies of this government. When you look at the Imani trainees, they're young people. The majority of them, they are young people. They heard that come January, they will be getting $500 more on the stipend or salary, if you want to call it that they're actually receiving. $500 more. Young people. They also know that the free tuition at TAMCC and NULO will impact them. Young people again, young people. The free tuition, $800, $810, right? They also know that the free internet access in homes without, it will impact them, young people. They know that the WASH program will impact them because they might be in a home without indoor bathroom and toilet facility. So they know what's going down, right? Schools are being built. It will impact them. Clinics and medical stations and so on being refurbished. It will impact them. So the young people know. You look at the boards, the whole the statutory boards, right? Composition of these boards. You have 2-3 young people on those boards. That's what you want. So young people are understanding clearly that this government cares about them, that this government wants good for them. And I want to commend the NDC administration for focusing on young people. A lot of training is taking place. The creative industry getting that kind of money and support. The majority of people in the creative industry, they're young people, right? The photographers, the folks who are involved in theater, drama, the poets, right? Those who have their own little thing going on in the media, those who are doing their drawing, so those artists and just name it. The majority of them are young people. But look at what the government did for them. 100% concession, right? And then you have 100% concession, and then you have the 100 of them getting scholarships, opportunities again, right? So I am saying they know what's going down. Trying to get my good friend Toes here, his contribution, but the system is giving a little trouble tonight in terms of let me see. All right. Let me just get this here. All right. I was just trying to get my good partner. Tools, I'm trying to feature the presentations of most of the members of parliament on the government side. But, sometimes it takes a little while when it comes to getting it downloaded or uploaded or giving some problems earlier. So I am saying the young people are more aware. They have smartphones and smart watches and smart tablets and smart everything. So they're not going to be tricked or fooled by Keith Mitchell or the NNP. And the NNP must know that young people are impressed with the NDC administration. And they are making that known. The mere fact that they can say, a group of 8, if Keith Mitchell thinks that we are stupid, jokey making, and they're also monitoring the conduct of Keith Mitchell and his members on the opposition side, the no-show in the parliament, the disrespect shown to our beloved prime minister, right? You delivered. They gave you time to deliver. You did that. Everybody stayed. They listened to you. But when it came to you listening to the prime minister deliver his budget response, you did not come forward, right? Because to you, you're bigger than everybody else. But young people are observing all of that. Young people are observing the conduct of those on the opposition side. It comes across as though they have no respect for the office of prime minister. They have no respect for the parliament. And a friend told me today, Kem, the government or the speaker of the house or the parliament, they need to pass some kind of law which says if you fail to turn up in the parliament to do the people's business, they need to start deducting money from what you're supposed to get. Because by now, those members of parliament, they will be getting some $5,000. We are trying to, while I speak to you, trying to get this thing here, trying to get the presentation of a couple of those folks here. But I'm not getting it. Trying to get the presentation. Let me just bear with me, folks. Just bear with me.
So much things that we need to see about. Surely I do have to spell them out. Cause you know as well as I do, the only way is putting more effort and less play. Because now, more than ever, we must show discipline, tolerance, and production to build a strong and better nation. I say that is the main foundation. So come let us work hand in hand, because this is our land. Come my brother, come my sister, right, and let us build a nation together.
Right, so I'm having some problems in getting that. So I would play back for you our Prime Minister's presentation. I'll play back for you our Prime Minister's presentation because I was trying to get that uploaded there because I wanted to feature Toes and the Honorable Lennox Andrews. I call him Toes. We cool. I wanted to feature him, and also I wanted to feature the Honorable Ron Redhead tonight. All right, and then I will do the same thing because I have the Honorable Delma Thomas down to be featured and the others. Right, but it's not happening. So let me feature our beloved Prime Minister. Right, let me get it up. All right, nice.
They are seeking to do and what we are seeking to do is to simplify the rules so that we have two primary rules from a fiscal point of view that the government must comply with. One, the debt to GDP rule. And that is critical to ensure that we do not borrow more than we can repay. Because when you borrow more than you can repay, yes, you will not be able to pay public servants. Yes, you will not be able to meet your commitments. And so the goal here is to ensure that by 2035, our debt to GDP ratio is anchored at 60%. We are also not going to hide. And that was part of the problem. Hiding your debt, borrowing, doing all kind of scheme to not show the public the actual amount of money that you're borrowing. And this is part of the transparency, not just central government debt, all statutory body and state-owned enterprises debt. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to make it clear. The $2.59 billion of debt is central government debt, but there's more debt. As of June, state-owned enterprises debt total $522.7 million. And I want the public to understand something. This administration has thus far, as of last week in Marrakech, Morocco, only signed one major debt agreement, and that is with the Saudi Development Fund. So all of this debt that I'm talking about here, the $2 billion in central government debt, the $5 million in state-owned enterprise debt, is inherited debt. That is what we have to manage. Right? That is the debt the state of Grenada is facing. It's not mine. It's not the National Democratic Congressman. It's the taxpayers of the country. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we appreciate that we need to be disciplined. We appreciate we need to be transparent. We appreciate we need to send the right signal to our development partners that we have nothing to hide, that we are going to publish the data, that we are going to be transparent, and that we are seeking to simplify the legislation so that the public understands in layman terms. I'm not speaking in econometrics and ketonometrics and whatever else.
Right. So, folks, that there was a piece that I played for you before. So I was actually playing the wrong thing for you. All right. So, yeah. So that there was saved. All right.
8th of December, extending Yuletide greetings to you, Mr. Speaker, the staff of the lower house, to my colleague MPs on both sides of the house, to all who are gathered with us in Parliament this morning, senior government officials, well-wishers, and the citizens of Grenada. I suspect this budget debate, Mr. Speaker, will perhaps be the last time that Parliament sits before the end of the calendar year. And so I want to take the opportunity to wish each and every one and their families a happy, holy, and safe Christmas season. Mr. Speaker, I want to start my contribution to our debate on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2024 by congratulating the Minister for Finance and the team at the Ministry for Finance for a sterling job. We should recognize, Mr. Speaker, that the Minister for Finance only assumed this role in April of this year. And so I want to take the opportunity, since I too held that role for a brief period, to also extend my appreciation to the PS, the Deputy PS, and the entire team at the Ministry of Finance, who would have assisted me in my debut presentation of the 2023 budget. Mr. Speaker, we appreciate that the team at the Ministry of Finance and the respective teams at each of the respective ministries have had to work under difficult and trying circumstances. We inherited a ministerial complex that was not fit for human habitation. As we all know, the air conditioning system in that building is centralized. There's very little natural ventilation, and the air conditioning system was not working. That's what we inherited. It meant that the staff had to work in extremely hot and uncomfortable circumstances with poor air quality. That was compounded by the presence of mold, and this does not extend only to the ministerial complex. It extended to the Ministry of Education, and it also extended to the financial complex. In fact, Mr. Speaker, and it's perhaps important for me to start on that, these 3 buildings could be classified as sick buildings, and they are perhaps symptomatic of the challenge that the public servants faced over the last several years, in that the working environment was one which was sick, and in many instances led to sickness, trauma. Yet, Mr. Speaker, they've had to persevere, and persevere they did. And we are happy to be working with them to address some of these challenges. And they have done a sterling job, despite the difficult circumstances. And so, Mr. Speaker, it is for that reason that the Minister for Finance would have been happy to announce that, given the circumstances under which many of these public servants have had to work, and that includes the entire security apparatus of the state of Grenada, the police force, the police officers, the prisons, the prison officers. What I'm saying about the financial complex and the ministerial complex and the Ministry of Education extends to the national security apparatus. You don't need no engineer to tell you the state of the Grenville police station. A blind man could see that the Coast Guard building burnt and was never repaired. And those are the circumstances in which our men and women who serve Grenada have had to work. So we were happy, Mr. Speaker, to extend a show of appreciation by agreeing to pay to all government employees a one-off 25% equivalent of their salary, in appreciation of the hard work and dedication that they do in the difficult circumstances that they've had to do it. And so, Mr. Speaker, we didn't have to announce this as part of the 2024 budget because it's not part of the 2024 budget. It is a payment being made before the end of 2023, and it will be paid with the second of the bi-monthly payments that are paid to government employees. So I want to again extend our appreciation to the government employees, all government employees who have worked with us to face and address and find solutions to many of the challenges that we've had to deal with in the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, I suspect many of us may be here this morning anticipating a great showdown. I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint Mr. Speaker because, you see, Mr. Speaker, I recall a famous or infamous interview in which I was being interviewed, and may her soul rest in peace, by Ms. Odette Campbell. And as part of that interview, she showed me a video clipping, and she asked for my reaction to the video clipping. And it was a video clipping of a member of Parliament engaging in what could only be described as comic relief. And I sat and I looked at the clipping, and I said my reaction was that it was comic relief and it was not worthy of a response, save to smile. And that Parliament should be used for serious business, for business of the nation, for the business of addressing solutions to the many challenges we face. And so the estimates of revenue and expenditure is in essence a set of numbers, but what they seek to do is address in policy form the serious issues that this nation faces. So we will not engage in an exercise in caricature, in parody, in stand-up comedy. or any of the sort. What we will seek to do, Mr. Speaker, is to address the serious issues that we need to address as a nation, not just in 2024, but in the medium term and in the long term. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to start, Mr. Speaker, by thanking the constituents of St. David for giving me the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to represent them in this honorable house. And while it is by chance, Mr. Speaker, that I became the leader of the National Democratic Congress and as a result, Prime Minister, I wasn't elected as Prime Minister. I was elected as a Member of Parliament for the people of St. David. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to start my presentation, and I hope I don't take the entire 2 hours to do it. But if I do, I am unapologetic, because I was appointed the MP for St. David. It is the people of St. David I'm here to represent, and it is to the people of St. David that I'm accountable to first and foremost. And so, Mr. Speaker, you will find that not only me, but that all of my colleagues will in fact start their presentations as part of this budget debate, addressing their constituents, the work they've done, the challenges they've encountered, and the plans for 2024 and beyond, and how the budget plays a role in those plans. If we spend all our time speaking to our constituents, then I dare say, Mr. Speaker, we will have done our job, and nothing more can be expected of us. So, Mr. Speaker, when I asked the people of St. David to give me the opportunity to represent them, this document is what I circulated to them. Very small. It said, together, and I want to emphasize together, we will move St. David forward. And this is what I said to them. I'm Deacon Mitchell, political leader of the National Democratic Congress and a son of the soil of St. David, from the village of P.T. Esperance. It is my pleasure to serve as your NDC candidate for the parish of St. David in the next general election. I'm a lawyer with 19 years of practice, a father of 2, and I enjoy music, sports, and community engagement that involves uplifting others. The success of others, especially those who succeed against the odds, is one of my greatest inspirations. It is my vision that together we can positively transform the quality of life of everyone living in St. David as we move our parish forward to become the place that we can all be most proud of. Together we will ensure that we achieve, amongst other things, the following. And Mr. Speaker, I only listed 7 things. And I will pick one sentence from this. Building and supporting our schools and communities, sports clubs, community centers. So I will start there, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, since being given the chance to serve the people of St. David, we have renovated the Belial Community Center. We have renovated the Barrett Community Center. The current community center is 90% complete with renovations. We have started work on a community center in Vincent's. We have started the renovation of the Old Wester Hall Mondays Community Center. Mr. Speaker, that's 5 community centers in 15 months. I will single out Barrett. That was a community center, Mr. Speaker, that we met with 3 or 4 walls upright. It had been in that state since Hurricane Ivan, 2004. No roof, quarter of a building, no community center for the people of Barrett. Mr. Speaker, Vincent's, no community center at all. Belial, a building that virtually was condemned, no community center. Mr. Speaker, I highlight these things because you see, in 10 years, Save for the Malmont Community Center, no work was done on community centers in St. David. How are people to meet, to greet, and to move their communities forward if they have no place to meet? And I want to point out, Mr. Speaker, that these initiatives were done in large measure without any central government funding. I want to single out our partners. I want to start first with the Catholic Church, Mr. Speaker. In the case of Belial, and in the case of Incense, the land upon which the buildings are located, and in the case of Belial, the old building itself belongs to the Catholic Church. And they've agreed to partner with us to allow us to renovate the buildings. The renovation, the funds for the renovation, Mr. Speaker, came, and I'm happy to express my profound gratitude to His Excellency the Ambassador of China to Grenada, because the funds for the renovation of the Belial Community Center came from the people and the government of China. And so I place on public record my appreciation to His Excellency for affording us the opportunity to be able to partner and have the community center retrofitted and made available for use by the residents in that community. So both Vincent's and Belial, Mr. Speaker, we've partnered with the Catholic Church. So some may come in here and talk about no consultation with social partners, including the churches. We do more than consult. We partner, we work together, and we deliver. Mr. Speaker, the Barrett Community Center was renovated with funds from a private company, the developer in Lever. We reached out to them and indicated that we wish to renovate a building which for the last 20 years stood as a derelict building, a sore thumb in the community. And they happily partnered with us and advanced funds so that we could complete that project. Mr. Speaker, I want to single out the volunteers who've worked on many of these projects. In the case of Barrett, Mr. Stewart started the work with no funds, with not being paid for many months, until we were in a position to get some funding right at the end to pay him and his workmen. So I want to pay tribute to him publicly for doing so. In the case of Vincent's, the contractors agreed to work at cost price, no profit or markup to himself. And again, I want to express my appreciation for doing so. In the case of Old West Almond Lilies, again, no government funds. It is funding from another private corporate sponsor who's agreed to assist. So whether it's Citizens Paints Grenada Limited, Mr. Speaker, who happily agreed to donate painting for Barrett and Belial, or whether it's the Chinese Embassy and the government and people of China, or whether it's the Catholic Church, or whether it's the several volunteers, together we have already begun to make a significant difference in community centers in St. David. Mr. Speaker, we intend to focus next year on community playgrounds. As you're aware, Mr. Speaker, or you may not be aware, there are absolutely no playgrounds for children, or for that matter, adults in St. David's, except in private educational facilities. There are no swings. And when we think about that, Mr. Speaker, we ask ourselves, what kind of community have we not been building? And so, Mr. Speaker, we intend to, in a similar vein, partner with the corporate community, with donors, with volunteers, to ensure that we can install playgrounds, either at or close to all of our playing fields, so that both our children, their families, and our elderly can have the opportunity to exercise, to spend quality time with their families and their loved ones. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, we will also seek to address the state of our basketball courts, whether they be at the secondary schools or the primary schools, by ensuring that we can erect all the necessary hoops and nets, the fixing of the potholes and the cracks, so that again, or young persons in particular have the opportunity to play sports and have access to these facilities. So you see, Mr. Speaker, we are here to represent our community. We are not here to engage in distraction and move along and commerce. Mr. Speaker, skills training, education, and the youth. It was remarked yesterday that the purpose of the Imani program was to address the large numbers of young people who come out of secondary school and find themselves in no man's land. Well, who had the opportunity for the last 22 years to fix that no man's land problem? I want to provide some context, Mr. Speaker, so that we understand. In 1995, the Honorable Leader of the Opposition became Prime Minister of Grenada. He was 48 years old. I'm 46. He served as Prime Minister of this country uninterrupted except for one stint, an interruption led by the Honorable Tillman Uncle Tilly Thomas. So let's get this straight. For the last 22 years, save for a 5-year interruption, we've had the same Prime Minister. He must have been aware that our education system was producing people who are given credentials or subjects, and that they were leaving school at the age of 16, not yet an adult, and they were being asked to fend for themselves, and that the only two institutions in Grenada which could take them was NULO, a non-government institution, founded after the fall of the revolution by Bishop Sidney Charles and other members of the Catholic Presbyterian Methodist Church to help address the challenge posed by the collapse of the revolution and what is now T.A. Marischal Community College, what was previously known as IFE. That was known. So we knew that each year we were producing hundreds of students who had subjects, no skills, no exposure to skills training, no exposure to technical and vocational skills training. And instead of seeking to address the fundamental root problem, which is our education system, what we sought to do is put a plaster on it by creating the Imani program, which ultimately leads to a situation where people are locked in, receiving $700 for 8, 9, 10 years, and they have to live on that. And oftentimes, when they go into that program, they are dependent on their parents, and then they go and have children. So you have 3 generations of persons who are locked into a cycle of poverty, simply because we are not addressing the root cause of our education system. So, Mr. Speaker, we recognize that change doesn't come overnight, transition doesn't come overnight, and anything that's worth doing is hard. And so, Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Education and his team have begun to introduce technical and vocational education and training in primary schools. Mr. Speaker, we have said we will move the mandatory school leaving age to 18 come effective September 2024. Why are we doing that? It means, Mr. Speaker, we recognize that allowing you to leave school at 15 and 16 years old, when you are not an adult, with little or no exposure to skills training, puts you in a position where you are almost unemployable, and you therefore become unemployed, and you quickly fall into the category of the youth who are poor. And so it is society's obligation, or obligation, to ensure that we take steps, fundamental steps, to addressing that. And so moving the school leaving age to 18 is one of the many steps we have to take in order to achieve this reversal. 2, making it mandatory that all our students have exposure to technical and vocational education from primary school right throughout secondary school up to 18 years is also such a significant step. It must be done, Mr. Speaker. The issue of skills training is not unique to Grenada. It plagues the Caribbean. It actually plagues the world. In a conversation The ambassador of China indicated that China faces the same challenge. Even advanced economies faces the same challenge. The education system has become outdated and outmoded for the realities of our time. And so we need to fix that. And so in the case of St. David, Mr. Speaker, which will be replicated in other parishes, we have already begun to do significant work and engage in significant discussions with, for example, NULO and the National Lotteries Authority, so that we can not just talk, but get funding, identify the locations, and begin to work on the curriculum to ensure that the people between 16 and 18 have access to technical and vocational education. Mr. Speaker, I also want to address something else in relation to education. You see, Mr. Speaker, we sometimes pretend that we don't know that there are boys in particular who at ages 11 and 12 don't go on to secondary school because they say they haven't passed common entrance, or CPA as it's called now. And they drop out of school. If you drop out of school at 12 years old, what life are we confining them to? Her Majesty's prison. Because at 11 and 12, if you are not in school, what are you doing? And so, Mr. Speaker, the need to have the technical and vocational training in primary schools also becomes paramount, because we need to ensure that these young men in particular do not feel abandoned and left out, and that they have the opportunity to recognize that not everybody is inclined to or interested in academics, and that it is our responsibility to give them the opportunities to technical, vocational, and skills training. And that includes, Mr. Speaker, importantly, digital skills. In fact, more than ever, if there is a skill that every young Grenadian must acquire, it is digital skills. If we do not do so, Mr. Speaker, we would be left behind. So, Mr. Speaker, I want us to appreciate that this is a fundamental issue. The governor of the central bank, our own Timothy Antoine Esquire, former long-standing permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, in delivering one of his central bank addresses, hammered home the point that he was deeply concerned about our preoccupation with subjects. Our preoccupation with subjects. And then you have 15 subjects and you leave school, and then what? They become obsolete, but you've never seen a fax machine in your life. You can't even send a fax. You can't even type. And Mr. Speaker, I want us to understand that typing replaces writing. If you can't type, you almost can't live in the world. And I'm prepared to bet the lottery that if we go to our schools, we do not teach typing. You will probably have the phone and you do 11111, but you actually do not teach the technique of typing. And so when young people leave school and they come for a job, and you say to them, type me something, they can't type. They have no exposure to Microsoft suite of products. They have no exposure to Adobe suite of products. These are prerequisites. It's the equivalent of being able to speak. And our education system is not addressing those issues, Mr. Speaker. So, when we talk about the transformation, Mr. Speaker, and when we talk about change, we never said we were going to change really overnight. You can invent that narrative if you want. We made it clear, Mr. Speaker, that this was going to be a medium-term and a long-term project. And I'm not fighting for myself. We are not fighting for ourselves, Mr. Speaker. We are fighting for the young people of Grenada. You see, Mr. Speaker, what the leader of His Majesty's opposition has to appreciate is that next year he would serve 40 uninterrupted years in the House of Parliament. Do you know what the mean or average age of a Grenadian is, Mr. Speaker? It's 35 years. The average Grenadian is 35 and under. And he served 40 uninterrupted years in this parliament. So yes, some are wolves in sheep clothing. And some, it is by the deeds you shall know them. So after 40 years, the deeds are known. And we know them. After 40 years, we understand who have the silver tongue and who can be a chameleon and can change at the drop of a hat in the pursuit of one for the road. But Mr. Speaker, as was so aptly put by the Minister for Finance, we are not giving the Manis one for the road. We are giving them one for their future. So, Mr. Speaker, I go back to those who like to talk about the poor and vulnerable. Let's take a walk through Belial community, as I did last Friday. There's a young lady by the name of Alika, Mr. Speaker, who probably, up until maybe 18 months ago, would never be thinking about being involved in an initiative such as WASH. WASH. To wash your clothes, you need water. To wash your wares, you need water. To bathe, you need water. To cook, you need water. To clean, you need water. To grow your crops, you need water. You need access to water. To ensure that you, your loved ones, the elderly, the young, live in a healthy environment, you need water. It is water more than anything else, more than even soap, that gives us sanitation. So yes, Mr. Speaker, we need water, we need access to water, we need sanitation in homes. But Mr. Speaker, if an elderly person has to get up in the rain that fell yesterday and leave a house and walk a 50 feet or 75 feet to use a pit latrine, you tell me you can sleep good at night? If there are thousands of Grenadians who still have to go through this, you're telling me that you would not support, champion, and scream and shout for a program that ends to systematically eliminate the use of pit latrines? So, Mr. Speaker, when we went into Belial, we didn't say, if you vote for NDC, we will give you a bathroom and toilet on this side, and if you didn't vote for NDC, no bathroom and toilet for this side. We said, go into Belial and identify every person who needs a bathroom and a toilet and access to water. And that includes even taking on those who like to fight for land. Do you know what's the average size of a bathroom, Mr. Speaker, and toilet? 8 by 8. 8 feet by 8 feet. Do you know what the size of some of these homes are? 14 by 16 or 16 by 16. So let's put things in context. 16 by 16 is the size of your home. The bathroom is 8 by 8. The bathroom is half the size of the house. So, Mr. Speaker, in some instances, the house can't even take the bathroom and toilet. We have to fix the houses as well to make sure that the bathroom and toilets are built. In some instances, Mr. Speaker, the living arrangements is such that you have to share the septic tank. And I'm happy to report that the residents of Belial recognize that we have to do this together. That they have to help dig the septic tanks. That they have to share common septic tanks. And they are doing it. So, Mr. Speaker, when we went on Friday, there were about 14 bathroom and toilets being built simultaneously. We expect by the end of January, Mr. Speaker, to have constructed somewhere in the region of 32 to 36 bathroom and toilets. Mr. Speaker, we've just started. This is a pilot. Why? Because there are issues. People complaining this person's squatting on their land, they don't want them to get a bathroom and toilet, etc. But ask ourselves, what's the size of a grave? 6 by 6? Is that what you put you when you 6 by 4? 6 by 4. That's the only thing you need to fight for. So all people need to understand that we have to put these petty differences behind us. You can't be worried about an 8 by 8 spot when the eternal Lord has one 6 by 4 waiting for you. Let the people have a decent, basic right, water, sanitation, while they're alive. You see them every day, they're your neighbor, oftentimes they're related to you. So, Mr. Speaker, we are not going to encourage not giving people water, bathroom, and toilet because of some dispute over 2 feet of land and 3 feet of land. We will help them resolve those issues. That's why we need to do the pilot. That is why we recognize we needed to go to Nawasa and speak to Nawasa about ensuring that there are no impediments in the supply of water to persons who so badly need this. And Mr. Speaker, if we care about our women in particular, the idea that we will be comfortable with our women, and particularly our elderly women, having to leave small homes in many instances and walk at night or in rainy or unpleasant conditions, sometimes down tracks that you guarantee to fall, just to do basic human physiological activities, Mr. Speaker, is not something that we are prepared to tolerate. And so if we spend the next 3 years only doing wash, Mr. Speaker, we would leave office knowing that we help to raise the social and human conditions of the citizens of Grenada. But, Mr. Speaker, we are not alone in this. I want to go on record again to thank the many persons, the many volunteers, because all of the work, the data gathering, are being done by members of the community, by volunteers. And the pilot started in St. David's, but I want to go on record to thank, Mr. Speaker, some of the team members who are not from St. David's. Ms. Marie Benjamin, not from St. David, and is leading the team. Darcina from Subiz, helping to lead the team. And I'm happy they're doing so because it allows them, Mr. Speaker, to go back to Subiz, to go back to other places, and be able to quickly jumpstart these initiatives. Mr. Speaker, many citizens of Grenada have reached out, including citizens in the diaspora, and have indicated their willingness to donate fixtures, fittings, toilets, to make financial contributions. And that is what we mean by together. Because these problems are not problems that the government alone can solve or fix. The government doesn't come and live or bathe in the 8x8 bathroom. It is persons in the community, family members in the community. And so it's important, Mr. Speaker, for us to work together. I trust that this is a national initiative that all of us, both sides of this house, the business community, our social partners, other NGOs, can rally around to make sure that by 2027, we would have eliminated, Mr. Speaker, the use of pit latrines. As I said, if I have to spend the entire 2 hours on St. David, so be it. Mr. Speaker, I turn to the question of sports. Mr. Speaker, I was very, very happy yesterday in St. Patrick to see the members of Hard Rock honoring their local hero. At least one Mitchell, clearly, Mr. Speaker, had a profound impact on his community. And that Mitchell doesn't have to say that my legacy is secured, because it was in clear and overwhelming evidence yesterday. But, Mr. Speaker, there's another Mitchell who likes to talk a lot about sports. Interestingly enough, there's Hard Rock. I haven't seen a soft rock or any other equivalent in Northwest, but we will come to that. Mr. Speaker, my father used to play a lot of cricket. As the children of the deceased Honorable Adrian Mitchell said, they probably didn't take his sporting genes, and I probably didn't take my father's sporting genes either. So be that as it may, Mr. Speaker, I have to be a spectator. But, Mr. Speaker, the state of cricket in Grenada is abysmal. and we need to do something about it. So in St. David, Mr. Speaker, I was happy to support an initiative called Joy's Cricket School. Joy stands for Journey of Youth. An initiative, Mr. Speaker, of members of St. David. Forgive me, I'm going to call some of their names because we need to recognize what the persons who really make this country work. Jeffrey Telesford, Raphael Book Charles, Natalie Bartholomew, Marlon Klein. What they've done, Mr. Speaker, is agreed to work with the primary schools in St. David's, starting with St. Dominic's RC, current government, to create a cricket academy for primary school children in the area. And real cricket, Mr. Speaker, not tennis ball cricket, not softball, hardball cricket. And they began running this program during the summer. It continues every Saturday. Tomorrow is the last day before the Christmas break. Mr. Speaker, we were able to partner with them through the Ministry of Social and Community Development. And I want to express my profound appreciation to Minister Telesford and Thomas and the Community Liaison Officer to ensure that we obtain from Canada through a Pakistani company, Mr. Speaker, actual complete cricket gear for these young men and women. And so, Mr. Speaker, they are being trained properly in the technique of cricket. I am going to predict, Mr. Speaker, that that school will grow from strength to strength. We are going to be bringing them, thank you, Honorable Member for Northeast and the Ministry of Sports, we are going to be bringing them to the cricket on Thursday and Saturday, Mr. Speaker, whichever day they can come, so that they see the cricket in action and hopefully they get to meet some of the cricketers. And Mr. Speaker, we have to start at primary school. We can't wait, as I say, till people turn hardback man and woman and try to teach them skills. We must start at the primary school level. And I'm convinced that if we start at the primary school level, and St. Andrew and St. Patrick, which are the other two well-known cricketing parishes, we have to get going. Cricket is becoming an Olympic sport, Mr. Speaker. Not that I have anything against the West Indies, but if we have to go it alone and create a greater Olympic cricket team, so be it, Mr. Speaker. But we cannot do so without ensuring that we impart the skills and knowledge to our children starting from the primary school level. Mr. Speaker, I want to single out a national hero, and I'm saying publicly, and I've told him so, I'm going to recommend him for whatever awards we give, whenever we give it. Mr. Ray Duncan. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Ray Duncan has run a cricket coaching clinic for 42 uninterrupted years in St. David's. He has produced over 77 plus cricketers, and they have represented Grenada, Windward Islands, and the West Indies. An unsung hero who goes about every Saturday quietly making his contribution to the development of young men and women in St. David and in Grenada. People come from all over, Mr. Speaker. And he's been doing so largely without any support. So the Minister of Sports, I'm putting you on notice that come January, the support from Mr. Duncan's and his team of coaches and their plan to go into the primary school, to revive primary school cricket, Mr. Speaker, will have to happen. And I'm using this as an opportunity, and I've said so to some of our national players, and they've expressed their willingness to come on stream. Afi Fletcher, well, the two Fletchers, male and female, Junior Murray and so on, who we met with, together with Ray and so on. We have, Mr. Speaker, cricket is not just a sport for West Indians. If we understand the significance of what cricket meant in the formation of the Caribbean civilization, we cannot let it die. The same way in which, Mr. Speaker, or Oveko, or Shotney, or Jab Jab is important to us, the same way cricket, for its historical significance, is important to us. I'm not knocking basketball and tennis and all of that, but there was no West Indian basketball or tennis team that went to England and beat the Englishman at his own game, and went to Australia and beat the Australians at a game they inherited from the English. So, Mr. Speaker, we have to understand that cricket made us proud as black people, as people who were coming out and fighting colonialism. And we owe it to our great legends, from Malcolm Marshall, Viv Richards, Junior Murray, etc., to make sure that we invest in our young women and women and men, and give them the opportunity to play cricket. And Mr. Speaker, there's more money in cricket now than there ever has been. So it's not just the question of the historical significance of it, but the importance of ensuring that we give young men and women alternate or alternative careers. In addition to the subjects, in addition to the other skills training, Mr. Speaker, we need to recognize that sports is a career. But again, if we do not introduce the sport at the primary school level, if we do not train and impart the skills at the primary school level, many a talent will probably go wasted because we did not make the opportunity to give them that chance. So, Mr. Speaker, we will ramp up our support for cricket in St. David in 2024, both via the Ministry of Sports, via public-private partnership, via volunteers, and we expect, Mr. Speaker, again, success doesn't come overnight. Some of us want to give the impression that because the Minister for Mobilization, Implementation and Transformation is helping to ensure that at night people can see the curbs so that they know there's a drain or wall there by painting them in reflective black and white, which is standard practice in any semi-decent country. But when we have no standards and we have no class, it's easy to knock basic things that any civilized country has. That's why you paint it in black and white, so that people can see it, particularly at night, so that they could guide themselves accordingly and remain on the road. But no, you prefer to run off the road. So, Mr. Speaker, we have to recognize that success doesn't come overnight. When you go to Form 1 in secondary school, you're not expected to graduate in Form 1. When you enter primary school, you're not expected to graduate in the same grade you entered. You're expected to do your 5 or 7 years, and then you graduate. So, Mr. Speaker, when we talk about things like regularizing the public service, you think this was a problem that was created yesterday overnight? We never said we would regularize the public service in 12 months. We said we would regularize it. And we have begun to do so. And there are countless, hundreds if not thousands of government employees who just have to ask themselves this simple question. Ronald Reagan asked the same of the Americans when he was taking on Jimmy Carter. Are you better off today than you were on the 22nd of June, 2022? That's the only question you have to ask yourself. Did you have a pension on the 22nd of June, 2022? For all of those who were acting Hollywood, Bollywood, and are not confirmed, were you not acting on the 22nd of June? So you see, Mr. Speaker, the idea of peddling this false narrative that we were trying to be magicians, and it's not happening, and the doomsday and the gloomsday narrative that is being pictured, well, that's fine. After 40 years, if you're too long in the thing and you no longer have a positive, hopeful approach to life, give it to Pedro. But don't come with a doom and gloom. What this country demands and requires, Mr. Speaker, is hope, optimism, and the willingness to find solutions. So, Mr. Speaker, the transformation is going to take time. And we've begun to lay the foundations. So we can look at the theme from last year's budget, and we can look at this year's theme. Mr. Speaker, for the hundreds of, if not thousands of government employees who have no government pension, let's be clear, and we're not mincing words. There are established public servants who have a pension. But let's be clear, on the 22nd of June, there was somebody saying if you pay this retroactive pension, and if you continue to pay the pension, the whole place go mash up. but we're not in the Gaza Strip, the place I mash up. The pensions, the retroactive were paid, and established public servants have their pension. There is no retroactive, there is no attempt to reform, there is no attempt to interfere with the established pensions of the public servants. That is not what pension reform is about. The pension reform is for the government employees, those who are on contract for service, contract of service, Imanis, unestablished, don't have any instrument telling you what your status is. It is for them. They do not have a pension. And we are saying, Mr. Speaker, that we will, with them, work towards having a contributory pension. So that they contribute, the government contributes, and they have a pension. And the aim, Mr. Speaker, is to institute that in 2024. Now, explain to me how anybody who say they love people, they're God-fearing, and they have a heart, and they have empathy, would object to giving these very people that you hired on contract for service and contract of service a pension. So as I said, you know people's actions by the actions, because they've been around long enough, and the public has judged.